Okay, welcome back again to Table Talk and Tumbleweeds, and this time we are talking about Lord of the Rings for Lent, and we are coming into Ash Wednesday. I already talked about one of the themes, some of the introduction to this, but for this video we really want to talk about our main idea of fellowship. I mean, there's a lot that goes on this about fellowship throughout the novel, and especially in this, because this is the part where we have the framing of the fellowship, and I'm sure we'll tap back into this in the when we talk about the Council of Elrond. But for right now, it really struck me when I was rereading this that the Conspiracy Unmasked. Right, that is the scene where where Frodo realizes, okay, so Frodo spent all this time getting ready to slip out of the Shire,
completely unnoticed. No one knows.
Completely unnoticed. Gandalf catches Sam spying underneath the window, and Sam's like, totally innocent. And Gandalf says to him, okay, I know what I'm going to do. You have to go along. Yeah. And it's kind of an interesting scene, just to build up to this, because when Gandalf tells him that, Sam bursts out laughing in joy, and then he starts to cry. So you have that sort of push-pull, and maybe we can bring that up again when we're talking about the leaving.
Yeah.
But what happens in this Conspiracy Unmasked is they have run into Pippin and Merry, and in this scene, Frodo discovers that they have been spying on him for years.
Yeah, right? Because this is not a quick process.
This is not a quick process. Of Frodo's beginning. They know Frodo well enough that they know he's getting ready to leave. They know it has something to do with the ring, and they've been reconnaissancing.
And again, this shows up in the books way better than the movie, because in the movie, again, Frodo finds out that this is the One Ring, and then goes.
And then he goes, right.
And in the books, there is time. He has to sell the bag end. He has to figure out all this other stuff. He makes preparations that everyone thinks that he's moving to this other town.
Right.
And instead he's going the other way.
He's going
to
the
go.
other way.
And so then they get years to spy on him.
Yes, to spy on him and to listen in and to figure out what is it with the ring, what is he doing, what is he up to? Oh, he's leaving. Well, he's not going to leave without us. We're going to go with him. We're going to do all this stuff. And you in the book, you kind of get this sense of this growing horror and delight, right? On Frodo's part, when he realizes that his friends have been scheming against him for the longest time.
Not against, but certainly scheming.
They were scheming and lying, and the scene.
And they know everything.
Yeah, and I think the two things that struck me is when they're talking about it, and I think it's who says it? I don't know, but the whole. I think it's either Merry or Pippin that says, we discovered that the Fellowship really already exists, because he says, all along it's been Captain Frodo and company. Yeah. But there's this sort of irony that the captain is totally clueless. Right?
He's got all these people following him, and he's the only one who doesn't know.
He's the only one who doesn't know, and he thinks that he's going out to, it's kind of a little bit like like standing there shaking your fist at someone's I really scared him, and there's 18 guys with submachine guns standing behind you. It's like, I'm tough.
Yeah. I'm going to do this all on my own. I'm all prepared, and it turns out that I don't.
Then there's a whole army behind me. So, but that is what it is. Like Frodo is prepared to go it alone.
He thinks he is.
He thinks he is. Gandalf knows better, which is why he sends Sam.
Yes.
Right, but then you have this scene in which he realizes that all of his friends have already been. The Fellowship existed before Frodo arrives, and here's the quote that I have. It does not seem that I can trust anyone, says Frodo. And it's like there's a little bit of an edge. So it doesn't seem like I can trust anyone, because on the one hand he does feel a little bit betrayed there, I think.
Sure.
But he's also ribbing them a little bit.
Absolutely.
Sam looked at him unhappily, because of course for Sam, being trustworthy, right? Sam looked at him unhappily. It all depends on what you want, put in Merry. You can trust us to stick with you through thick and thin to the bitter end. You can trust us to keep any secret of yours closer than you keep it yourself, but you cannot trust us to let you face trouble alone. We are horribly afraid that we are coming with you or following you like hounds. I mean, there is this Captain Frodo and company, right? There is this fellowship thing that goes on, this friendship. Anyway. I don't deny it, said Frodo, looking at Sam, who was now grinning. I don't deny it, but I'll never believe you are sleeping again. Whether you snore or not, I shall kick you hard to make sure. You are deceitful scoundrels, but bless you.
Yeah.
Right?
You can tell that he is so angry and so relieved at the same time.
Yes. So this was, but I think the thing that's sort of interesting to me here is this is all about trust. Mm-hmm. And yet they've been lying to him for years, right? So So what kind of trust? And I think
Yeah.
that's when Mary really sort of hits the nail on the head in some sense. Says, well, what kind of trust? Yeah, we will lie to you if it means protecting you, right?
Ooh, I'm not sure I like that.
Well, maybe that's not exactly what he says.
Sure.
You cannot trust us to let you face trouble alone,
Yeah.
right?
Because that's if it means protecting you, there's some paternalism that
Yeah.
does not show
So
up.
so I miss. But it's sort of a little bit like the whatever action film you want to say where someone says you stay here and the other person says I am not staying here.
Yeah.
No, you stay here. Yeah, sure, I'm going to stay here, right? And they show up at the last minute and then save everyone's bacon, which is what happens here as well, right? In some sense.
It's Han Solo showing up at the end of the first Star Wars movie and blowing up the. No.
Oh, but did he say he was going to stay home?
Yeah, because he got his money and he's leaving.
Oh, yeah. But they didn't tell him to stay. Well, anyway.
Yeah, but the point of that is I'm leaving, but it turns out that I've got to come back to save you.
I'm not going to leave. We're going to die together.
Cannot turn my back on this fellowship.
Yeah, fellowship, and I think that's again where this to me, it really to me speaks to Tolkien's experience in the First World War, right? Of your friends might be untrustworthy over here, but the trust, is like you can trust us to have your back. That's what you can trust. I might be a horrible person, I might be a womanizer, or I might be a drunk, or I might be whatever, right? I might eat too much. Second breakfast, third breakfast, fourth breakfast. I bet they don't know about third dinner. I could be a glutton. I could be but this is what you can trust. This is the thing that you can trust. I will have your back, and that's the form of fellowship. And what's interesting to me is you have that here, and then later in the Dancing Pony when we meet Strider,
Yes.
who of course later turns out to be Aragorn. So he has many names. But for here we'll call him Strider because that's what they call him now.
Yeah.
And he's this skeevy looking guy.
He looks
right?
very sketchy.
He looks sketchy because he is, because he's one of the Rangers.
Wanders in the wilderness, unknown, unheeded, just is this guy who wanders around and who knows.
And he shows up in there, and he shows up in their room and says, look, you don't know what's hunting you. You need to do this. You need to do this. And Sam is very, very suspicious.
Oh yeah.
Right. And Sam is like, nope, I'm not going to do it.
So. Because how do we trust this any more than anybody else?
Because we are in the midst of great danger. The Nazgul are like creeping around.
And they've seen them.
And they've seen them.
They've hidden from them.
They've hidden from them. And they know now, sort of, not quite yet, because Strider hasn't told them. But, then they find this note. And Frodo kind of wants to trust him. Sam doesn't trust anyone. It's hard to tell what Merry and Pippin, they're in their cups. But then they get the letter that Gandalf has left them that the innkeeper remembers.
Forgot to send.
Yeah, and this is not in the movie, it's in the book.
Yeah.
And in the letter it says, hey, and it's that sort of famous poem, not all that's gold glitters, which refers to the fact that he's gold, but he doesn't glitter. Not all who wander are lost, etc. But at the end it says, basically you can trust Strider. So Frodo looked at him thoughtfully. Why didn't you tell me that you were Gandalf's friend at once? It would have saved time. Would any of you believe me until now, said Strider? In any case, I did not intend to tell you all about myself at once. I had to study you first.
There's a lack of trust on both sides here.
Yes, the enemy has set traps for me before now, and as soon as I had made up my mind, I was ready to tell you whatever you asked. But I must admit, I had hoped that you would take me for my own sake. A hunted man sometimes wearies of distrust and longs for friendship. So this is this so you have this guy who is going it alone. I mean, he's got the Rangers, but the Rangers are kind of lonely guys as well, right? So he's talking about there's this contrast between the one guy doing it alone and then this fellowship. And to me, that's just this very touching moment in which, he's like, yeah, I was kind of hoping you guys would like me just on my own.
This is a person who spends his time alone,
Yep.
without that fellowship, without any support, and he comes and finds some people who he should know. I can trust these people as long as they are who I believe them to be. Can I push all my chips in at once?
Yes.
And he so desperately wants to, and he's so desperately afraid to.
Yes.
And
I think
tension between those two.
And then there's this, the culmination of the scene when he tells them about the Nazgul, and Frodo looks around and says, "Oh, is there no escape then?" Looking around wildly. "If I move, I shall be hunted. If I stay, I shall draw them to me." You've got the ring, and that ring draws them, and you're going to go out on the road, and it's going to draw them. And so Frodo's like, wherever I go, they're going to hunt me as long as I have the ring, and I promised I'd take. So what am I? So he feels trapped, and
Birds
that's
have nests and foxes have holes, but I have nowhere to lay my
I have
head.
nowhere to lay my head. Strider lays his hand on his shoulder. "There is still hope," he said. "You are not alone." And I think that's this whole this whole fellowship idea, this contrast between the lone Ranger. Right? Sorry, it's there. It was right there. I couldn't not take it. And then the hobbits, who the solitary ranger, and this fellowship that Strider is slowly becoming a part of.
Yeah, and once again, we have the theme of me versus we, right? He has been me and me and me, not because he wants to be. Because this
That's what he's called to be.
This is what he's called to be. This becomes a point in Rivendell when he argues with Boromir about how, you know, we have been defending Gondor from all of these things with nobody saying anything about it because we are alone and silent and nobody tells our stories.
Right, right.
And now he has this moment where he can say, okay, I'm going to take this me and become part of a we. And he so desperately wants to be part of that we.
He wants to be that we.
And because he's part of that we, he is successful. If he
Eventually.
continued on his own, if he'd continued doing the ranger thing by himself, I don't know that this story would have a happy ending.
That's true. That's true. So you have once again in this scene that sort of compare, you know, that sort of the me versus we, right? And it's the we that gets us through. So, and that again feels like a nice point to stop. And in our next video, which again is right up next on the playlist, we will be talking about leaving Rivendell, but even more important, the Council of Elrond that happens before they leave Rivendell.